The thing the British most desire is to be able to insert an armed force into the Black Sea. This is a red line for both Turkey and Russia. But the game doesn't end there. For example, if Ukraine were to lose the war today and Zelensky were to flee, the question of where he would go, I would directly answer England. He could even be hosted there, perhaps even in the royal family's home. In the year 2021, England did something extraordinary. England is generally a country that doesn't like to talk about its own foreign policy, geopolitics, or strategy. When I say they don't like to talk, I mean they don't talk at all. Interestingly, even their media outlets, their newspapers, do not engage in such long-term, quality, in-depth analyses. While much is written and discussed about Turkish foreign policy, national security, and strategy here in England, this is rarely done. Analysis is typically limited to news about events. That was the conclusion of 2021, I assume. For the first time, England published a vision document. Moreover, they did it through official channels. They also make publications through ministry and prime ministerial websites. The Foreign Ministry, or rather the Prime Ministerial website, published a vision document about the global foreign policy England will pursue in the coming period. The unusual aspect was twofold. Firstly, do they actually do such a thing? Do they really say these things openly? Secondly, it was about the quality, what it says. We understood from there that we felt the ball coming. Firstly, the generally harmonious American-British policies were about to put on a global shirt. England was also sharing its contributions here. One of these contributions, that is, the points where they would act in partnership with their counterparts, was to play a greater role in the Pacific, to play a greater role in the Mediterranean, and of course primarily in their own periphery, let's say. Let's map this geographically. It means to actually expand into more areas from the poles to the region, including the Arctic and the Black Sea. Now this map is an old map we're talking about. When it comes to the poles, we can discuss the issue of England-Russia separately. There's a description called intermarium in international relations. It's an old description. It covers approximately 9 countries, including Turkey, from the Baltics to the Black Sea. They pursue a policy that can be described as leaning towards Russia through these countries. When combined with the Ukraine war, as we said, it became practical. It became a reality. England is the one preparing this plan in some regions, which often gives us a strong impression. With the Ukraine war, both its before and after, we mean from its before to its after. For example, Armenia-Azerbaijan, the Gulf crisis, the Libya crisis, the Mediterranean-Africa crisis, and even the current tension between Iran and Israel. It's very influential in all the lines we describe as Western Asia, from Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, to the line that extends to Iran. This includes Iraq, Syria, which becomes the entire southern border for us. It merges with Cyprus and is also very influential there. It has a serious background, a serious archive, and serious geopolitical acumen. Now, when I say these things, there are sayings like this: where an Englishman passes, grass doesn't grow, or if fish in the water have died, it means an Englishman has passed through. This intellect manifests itself in our lands in this way, and it's true. Yes, that's how it is. There's nothing to be done. However, in setting up this game, what I'm talking about is that England is ahead of America. In relations with Russia, England plays a leading role for Europe, and even a leading role. It is the preparer, the advocate, especially in the case of Ukraine. It's currently a country that wants this to continue even more than America does. I think it's generally better understood from simple examples. For example, if today someone asked, if Ukraine were to lose the war, where would Zelensky go? If everyone asked separately, I would directly answer England. He could even be hosted there in the royal family's home. If such a thing were to happen, we'll see. Could it really be like that? But the connection, rather, let me put it this way, not just the connection, but we can find concrete examples of England's attitude towards Russia. Let's finish that. The issue of the poles. It built a new route in terms of global transportation routes. Whether it's routes passing under South Africa or routes passing through the Red Sea, I'm talking about transportation routes. I'm talking about cargo routes. It's a shorter route than all of these, and this is now a well-known fact. It has become more suitable with the climate crisis, for example, now that the Russians have more icebreakers, And ultimately, it disrupts the Arctic balance in favor of England, explaining England's desire, support, and pressure for the inclusion of countries like Finland, Sweden, and Norway in NATO. That's a separate issue. I won't go into it now, but even in matters like serious mineral deposits, transportation routes, fishing, matters where we might say, is that even a thing? It's not an important issue. Come on, fishing. It creates serious conflict zones. When describing the England-Russia relationship, we inevitably have to follow a coherence, historically as well, based on what happened after the Second World War. But we must set the general picture as follows. The Anglosphere had to make a decision. I mean England and America, what we call the Anglosphere. They had to make a decision about what to do with Russia in the main confrontation, which is the America-China confrontation. At that time, the suggestions were as follows. Forming an alliance with Russia to counter China, either jointly or individually, and there was also a third option. It was to kneel Russia, to convince it, or through other means like economics, NATO membership. These were mentioned, discussed, and even came from Putin's mouth, convincing Russia to join this effort. However, they chose the last option. That is, to kneel Russia and condemn it to this, and by doing so, marching against China with Russia behind, not beside, them. Because of this choice, the essence of the current Ukraine crisis is what the British and Americans have chosen. But are they succeeding? It doesn't seem so. It doesn't seem so at this point. There are both the situation in Europe and the stage reached in the Ukraine war. There is talk that Ukraine cannot carry the war as before. I would say it's a rumor, but it's now surpassed rumor. Plus, there are reports of significant problems with the United States, both with their presidential election and their economy, along with political fractures. We will see how this reflects. However, in Ukraine, if Ukraine were to be defeated, or let's say, if Kiev were to fall, the crack it would create would deal a heavy blow to America's ambitions everywhere else, including Europe. In a sense, there's already a saying, we're on the threshold of a new world order. The next stage of this threshold depends on 2 points. One is the US presidential elections, and the other is the outcome of Kiev. That is, what will happen in the Ukraine war. If these two are not achieved, and a result tailored to this calculation is not obtained afterward, the Anglosphere, England and the US, will have opened the most severe area of weakness that the West has experienced in history.